Hey, Rainey, so the role of the engineer to the contract and the associated project management company, um, do you believe that role adds value to the construction process currently as it stands?
Hey, listen, I've been battling the role of engineer to the contract for 11 years now.
Yep.
Almost every single dispute that I work on, there is a problem with the engineer to the contract. I probably remove via mediation half a dozen every year for not being fit for purpose.
You say half a dozen?
About half a dozen, roughly, from every project. There's no ability in 3910 to actually, for the contractor to make submissions to remove the engineer to the contract when he's clearly not, doing his job. And it's actually, by not doing his job, is, detrimental to the outcome of the project, as we saw with Beechcroft Apartments. I put most of the blame on that one, actually, on that particular engineer to the contract, which got removed. And the problem is, the roles have now changed with the updated 3910. So we've got the independent certifier and the contract administrator, who can be the same, but probably won't be.
I think that's the only thing changed, the update.
It is really, it's giving validity now for different people to perform the role, whereas at the moment lots of people are performing the role which haven't got delegated authority to do so, or any contractual authority to do so. So, I'm dealing with directors of these big PQS practices who are appointed engineer to the contract, but they have subordinates doing the job for him, not even delegated properly. You've got the banks. I've got 22 disputes on the go at the moment.
Really?
I've terminated 2 contracts. I've issued one developer, 3 different contractors. Terminated 2 of the contractors, 2 of the contracts. The other one, the third one, we've issued a default notice, principal interference, and lack of backbone by the engineer to the contract in that particular case. Even in that particular, and this is as bad as it gets, asking the engineer to the contract to deduct liquidated damages a year before the completion date's even due, because he thinks the contractor might be late. So we've issued default notices.
Really? Yeah. That is a true story.
It is a true story.
Both of us are working.
Yeah, I know. So I'm seeing the worst of the worst behaviours at the moment. I think that developers are under a lot of pressure with the banks because of all the delays due to COVID. Increased costs. Sunset dates aren't being met on finance. That pressure is going on to the engineer to the contract, who currently is unable in many cases, to be able to stand back and go, well, actually, this is a variation. I know it's not what you want to hear, but, this is the situation. And yes, they're entitled to an extension of time. But one at the moment is $7 million contract, where the engineer to the contract was negotiating the extension of time in August last year. As soon as the main contractor started issuing P&G costs for the delay, the principal has asked the engineer to the contract to just deduct liquidated damages, which currently stand at $1.5 million. So we have issued a formal extension of time. It's been, he didn't answer it. We asked for a formal decision under 1324. He's come back and said, no, you're time barred.
So what we're saying is,
this is the behaviour, and there's no time bar at all. This is standard form 3910 with the words reasonably practicable thereafter. But we've got all these notifications. We've had all these meetings to discuss extensions of time, and he's just come back, well, because you put it in late, you're time barred. So there's a lot of really, really bad behaviour out there. But a lot of, I was at the Society of Construction Law engineer to the contract kind of role talk last night. But what is really, really clear is that from 11 years of working here, and I know I have the advantage of being dual qualified and having a master's in construction law, is that the people that are administering the contracts are not fit for purpose. They do not know about planning. They do not know about extensions of time. They do not know how to value and certify the works. So which is why we have all these cooking pot of different people kind of interfering with the process, because they don't understand contract law or contracts. They're not following the contract at all. They're doing the bidding of the principal in many cases. And I know that horizontal construction is quite different from vertical, and probably 95% of all the disputes I deal with are developers, are vertical construction. But it's the trouble I see with the role of engineer to the contract role, until they are trained to be fit for purpose, things aren't going to change. Now, I said last night at the SEL do as well, what we really need, because we talked about independence and impartiality, you're not going to get that if the principal's paying the bill.
100%.
So one of the submissions I put forward, which we did discuss briefly last night, but was told, well, this is what it is. This document that went out and draft is pretty much going to be what's actually submitted, was that we need to have the project pay for the CA or the independent certifier. For somebody to be truly independent, both parties, need to pay his bill.
Yep.
Easy to deal with, but again, is it going to be? Are we going to be seeing it? I don't think so.
But you know what scares me the most as well? Some of these engineers to the contract who aren't fit for purpose do not understand the amount of downstream pressure they send on a project, the amount of pressure they put on a project. It is insane, because I've dealt with it from a contractor side. When these guys are smoking pot, these guys fucking just pushing shit downhill, And yeah, I get it. You're protecting the client. That's apparently what you're meant to do. Not really, but
hey, listen. I mean, I've been, my days of being a QS and PM in England. I was contract administrator under JCT forms. I do anything from reviewing tenders, agreeing the works, variations, instructions, payment, everything. And one thing that was consistent through everything I did was actually, meetings to discuss variations, meetings to discuss delays. How can we mitigate these boys? And getting the subbies in. If it is an M&E, because in the UK those days it was one main contractor, and then you'd sub out the M&E and specialist, fire and stuff. So you'd have all the parties actually sitting there in a room, often after site office hours, discussing how we're going to actually mitigate this problem. That's never done here. There's just no, even though we've got a contract that says both parties should, got to issue the 521 notice and, may meet to discuss ways of mitigating it, never happens. Not from what I'm seeing. I mean, it may happen, but, I deal with a lot of projects and a lot of disputes, and it's just not there. That collaboration. And half the time I do believe that, it's because contract administrators don't actually know how to contract administer. They're not trained. You look at our QSs coming out of university here. They get virtually no training on contract or 3910. I ask contractors sometimes, why don't you get an NZ QS? Because they're useless training. They don't even know how to use a scale rule. And know nothing about contract. And this is, what I'm seeing every day. And these subcontracts that are actually being, are floating around industry at the moment, they're appalling. And then, a clear example of this, just obligations around time. In the UK in 2011, we banned retentions from being tied to the main contract. So subcontractors have a subcontract completion date and they get the retentions released there. Most of the subcontracts I'm looking at don't even have a completion date as per the contract program. What contract program? As per the main contract completion date. What? Because you haven't provided it. So then they moan about them not asking for an extension of time or time bar them. But actually, it's impossible for a subcontractor to ask an extension of time when A, he's given a 3-week look-ahead program and not an updated program monthly to show what's going before him and what's going after, and B, there's no due date for completion in his subcontract. So how does he work it out? It's incompetence right across the industry.
And if you bring that all the way back to the procurement process, that's often because the QS or the person letting the package doesn't know that they have to provide a copy of the head contract program or the tender dates, or sometimes we don't even get the subcontract details very well squared away. So again, trying to clarify those things through an offer is really important, but lots of people just don't, It becomes an issue.
Yeah, it's definitely a big issue out there.
Yeah. Okay, we'll wrap that up there unless you have final thoughts, Marty.
No, I think I'll probably touch on some of that, I think, when I talk on my subject, but there's certainly, I think, some symbiotic relationships with not setting up the project properly there as well. You think?
We'll get into that next.